Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit with another episode of What Are We Eating? Today we're going to be reviewing the 15-ounce cans of Yellowstone Cowboy Beef Stew, beef and barbecue baked beans, and spicy pork stew that cost $2.68 a can. Starting off with the Cowboy Beef Stew. Here's the list of ingredients. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like the beef is real beef. It looks like it's a 4-meat slurry concoction, but I'm not 100% sure. As soon as they add modified food starch into the beef, I'm gonna assume that it's a 4-meat slurry concoction, until I'm told otherwise. And you, the people, should too. The whole 15-ounce can has 400 calories, 20 grams of total fat, 9 grams of saturated fat, 3 grams of trans fat, 80 milligrams of cholesterol, 1200 milligrams of sodium, 43 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of fiber, 2 grams of sugars, and 23 grams of protein. Now here's our Yellowstone Cowboy Beef Stew right out of the cabinet and right out of the can. And it looks like your typical canned beef stew. And now it goes into the microwave for 1 to 2 minutes on high. And here's our Yellowstone Cowboy Beef Stew after microwaving for 1.5 minutes on high. And I do believe they put firecrackers or popcorn in the Cowboy Beef Stew because it exploded all over the microwave. So we scooped up a big spoonful and then into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. And I was absolutely flabbergasted at the lack of flavor and texture in this. With the exception of the petrified, flavorless pieces of meat, Grandma could drink the rest of the soup with a straw. Grandpa is gonna have to do his best and take one for the team and help Grandma out and gum the hell out of this meat. I can live with tough and dry meat, but give me some fat, some flavor. Grandpa would have to spend half a day gumming this meat, adding the flavor of his saliva and salt to make it edible for Grandma to enjoy. Otherwise, Grandma is going to choke on this pemmican-like texture of this beef and need the Heimlich maneuver to prevent being first in Grandma and Grandpa's box set of grave sites. I'll tell you what, if Gator served John Dutton this concoction of dry meat and flavorless mushy vegetables, he'd end up at the train station in a heartbeat. Now let's try the Yellowstone beef and barbecue baked beans, which have smoke flavor added. Everyone wants smoke flavor added, right? Anyone? MacLeod? I agree. I don't want it added. I want it in the meat. Not added, but in the meat. He said in the meat. Here's the list of ingredients, and now you see the beef is just beef and salt. Why can they just do beef and salt in this one, but in the beef stew, they had to do beef and food modified starch? I don't understand why they have to do beef and modified starch and sodium phosphate in the beef stew, but it's just beef and salt in this. What gives? Now see, you, the people, and me, the person, need to pay really close attention to what the manufacturer of this product is doing here. Both cans are the same size. The beef stew and the beef and barbecue beans both weigh 15 ounces. But if you notice, they try to be sneaky. On the beef stew can, you had the option of a half a can serving or the whole can serving. But on the barbecue beans, you have up to 3.5 servings for the same size can. And I don't know if this is true or not, but my speculation is they do this to hide the numbers. I mean, if you look at the numbers now, they don't look too bad. Per half cup serving, there's 180 calories, 2 grams of total fat, a half a gram of saturated fat, no trans fat, 5 milligrams of cholesterol, 280 milligrams of sodium, 33 grams of carbohydrates, 3 grams of fiber, 16 grams of sugars, and 8 grams of protein. However, you guys know old grandma. She's a big old country girl, and when she gets a hankering for beans, look out. She's gonna eat as many beans as she wants to. But when she had a stroke back in '92, the doctor told her to lay back on the sodium and the sugar. So if she eats this whole can of beans when she has a hankering for beans, she might be in trouble. So let's go over the numbers for the whole can of beans. Now grandma, she's not what you would call a classy woman. She's not going to take the time, open up the can of beans, put them into a bowl, and microwave them or heat them on the stovetop. She's going to plop open the can, get her wooden mixing spoon, and sit in her rocking chair and scoop these beans right out of the can with a mixing spoon and shove them into her pie hole. And as she's doing this, these numbers are adding up. A lot. To the tune of, for the whole can, 630 calories, 7 grams of total fat, 1.8 grams of saturated fat, 18 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,960 milligrams of sodium, 116 grams of carbohydrates, 10.5 grams of fiber, 56 grams of sugars, and 28 grams of protein. After all that sodium and sugar, grandma's legs are going to swell up like a tick on a coonhound, or she's going to have another stroke, worse than the one of '92. So my theory is, these food manufacturers want to be sneaky and break down the serving size as low as they can so that you, the people, or I, the person, don't really see how bad these foods are. So here's our beef and barbecue baked beans right out of the pantry and right out of the can. And now they go into the microwave for 1.5 to 2 minutes. Now I'm going to speak off the cuff on behalf of grandma here for a minute. Those pieces of beef look like turds off a coon's ass. Pardon the French, but grandma, she didn't like to mince words too much. So here's our beef and barbecue baked beans after microwaving on high for 3 minutes. So we gave it a mix and got a big old spoonful. And then into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. It tastes like nothing. Pork and beans taste better. Besides the lack of flavor, and I'm not really sure how you can have a lack of flavor with that much sodium and sugars, but somehow it's possible. And they obviously use the same pemmican beef that was in the beef stew in the baked beans, because this beef was just as chewy, just as dry, and flavorless as the beef was in the beef stew. I do believe this beef is coming from the train station. So far, not so good on the Yellowstone canned goods. 0 for 2, and we have one more can to go. So now, let's try the Yellowstone spicy pork stew. Here's the very simple list of ingredients. Again, why can't the meat in all the cans be simple? Like this. Now this can of stew is going to be up Grandpa's alley, because Grandma, she don't like to be playing with jalapenos. But Grandpa, on the other hand, is always up for a spicy, rootin' tootin' good time. Now see, Yellowstone doesn't even know what a serving size is anymore. 1 serving per container. Serving size, 1 container. Or per 1 cup, or per container. Make up your mind. They have obviously put as much time into labeling this can as they did into the quality of the meat and the flavoring of the stews. So for the whole 15-ounce can of spicy pork stew, there's 370 calories, 13 grams of total fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 75 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,310 milligrams of sodium, 36 grams of carbohydrates, 4 grams of fiber, 1 gram of sugars, and 27 grams of protein. Now here's our spicy pork stew right out of the cabinet and right out of the can. And I was certainly expecting something more substantial than that. I'm actually at a major loss for adjectives, and I ask you, the people, to help me describe what is this in my bowl. So here's our spicy pork stew after microwaving on high for 1.5 minutes. So we gave it a mix, got a big old spoonful, and then into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. Alright, and we have some good news on this one, ladies and gentlemen. This one has flavor. Not very much, but it does have a little bit of spicy flavor. Other than that, it has gristly pork, mushy mashed potatoes, and besides a slight spiciness, flavorless broth. It is the Christmas time of year, and I'm trying to keep in the holiday spirit and be cheerful for everyone. And I would like to spread my holiday cheer to whomever is responsible for making these Yellowstone canned products available to the public. Because if you're capable of performing your job at such a low level and you're still employed, there is absolute 100% that coma victims can be employed. But the really sad truth is that you, the people, and I, the person, continue to buy this gimmicky garbage food just like Gordon Ramsay's food. Once we stop buying it, they'll stop making it. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.